Good morning, everyone. Pastor Tom Ray here, and I wanted to talk about the art of empowering others. The art of empowering others. So this is how to identify and develop potential leaders like Jesus did. So Jesus, he identified ordinary people. He saw kingdom potential in them. And then patiently, he formed them, and he did that through close relationships, and honest coaching. So yesterday, I preached a message about love and how we can't just know about him. We have to know him. We can't just know about someone in our life. We have to know them on an intimate basis, and meaning we've spent time with them. We've got to learn their quirks and their likes and dislikes and things of that nature. So Jesus identified that in ordinary people. Jesus spotted potential leaders, those that may not have been aware that they even have the potential for that. He started with availability. Finding people that are available. I love the line in a song from Petra. It says, I know that my ability is not your main concern, but it's my availability and willingness to learn. Love those lines from Bob Hartman, I believe, of Petra. Yes, that goes back in the day. And they have a brand new album out after 50 years, right? So it's awesome. But he called these folks that were available, not necessarily looking for impressiveness. He was looking for fishermen and tax collectors and zealots and people others overlooked who were willing to leave everything and follow him. A couple of weeks ago, I preached a message titled The Cost of Following Jesus. And, a lot of these guys left father, mother, job, boat, career, left it all to follow Jesus. And wow, that's quite a commitment to follow Jesus. But Jesus looked for responsiveness. So he started with availability. He looked for responsiveness. Those who would come and see, those who would be intrigued. Oftentimes when God calls us to go with him someplace, we can't see the full picture. We don't know what's around the next bend or over the next horizon. We instead just choose to say, okay, God, you said come. I'm curious. I want to see what you're going to do. So he looked for responsiveness for those who would come and see and ask questions and stay close enough, long enough to be changed. Thirdly, he discerned faith and hunger in them that was beneath the flaws. When we're looking for potential leaders, oftentimes they don't have it all together. In fact, those seasoned leaders among us don't have it all together. We make mistakes. We blow it regularly, right? In some fashion or form. But he discerned their faith and hunger beneath the flaws. And Peter is a clear example of this, someone who is impulsive yet deeply responsive to the call of Jesus and his correction in his life. It's powerful. So practically, we want to watch for people who are consistently showing up, who are teachable and respond quickly to spiritual challenge, even if they're rough around the edges. I can't imagine what it really looked like to be around the disciples when Jesus first sent them out 2 by 2. I think he just wound them up and said, okay, go. And they went and did their thing, and I'm sure they didn't do a great job. I'm sure they were looking at each other saying, you go first. No, you go first. You tell people about Jesus. No, you do it, And so I'm sure that they had some challenge there, and their speech wasn't flowing. They didn't have their 3x5 card to read off of to say, hey, this is my testimony. This is what Jesus did for me. But Jesus knew that the best way for them to learn is to learn by doing. And so he sent them out 2 by 2 to do so. Next is there's a key criteria for emerging leaders. So we're looking for, number one, is character over talent. I'd rather have character over talent any day. But so many businesses, so many churches, unfortunately, allow the talent over the character. They hear this gifted person play or see this gifted person lead or do this particular job or skill, but their character. Wow. Spiritual leadership requires character. And so there's qualifications for overseers and deacons and managers and office managers and so forth, and parents, right? We've got children to lead. We've got people, small groups to lead, whatever the case may be. But these people need to be self-controlled. They need to be spiritually minded people whose lives already show a godly influence. They may not have it all together, but man, they have character, right? They have character. And next, that they have a spiritual hunger. Those leaning into prayer and scripture and obedience, not just enjoying the front page of the job, not just enjoying the front page or the stage of ministry or of leadership conferences, but they're a person of character. Next, that they have a relational influence. People others naturally follow or confide in. John Maxwell has said, and I've said it here before, if you think you're leading and no one is following, you're only taking a walk. So it's important that you know that this person has a good relational influence in the people in their sphere of influence. That's really good. And then here's one way to do things is when you're developing and encouraging and equipping a leader is to ask who already shepherds others informally. I've shared this before, but how can we faith it till we make it, right? Are we currently engaged in leading others? If you have a desire to be a manager, if you have a desire to be in ministry, pastoring, or leading some type of ministry, what are you doing on the backside of the mountain, so to speak? Where Moses was tending sheep. What are you doing right now? You could be a leader even in the small group that you're standing around in. How can you be a leader? Well, first, by your character and leading by example. If you're talking the talk, you better be walking the walk, right? It's so important. So Jesus, he had a process of doing things. He had an invitation that had trajectory. He said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. From being with him to joining his mission as disciple makers, not just disciples, but disciple makers. Go out into the highways and byways and compel them to come in and go into all the world and preach the gospel. He not only discipled them, but told them how to pay it forward, how to go out and do likewise. Jesus was intentional and relational. Disciples were with him. They were with him so that he could send them out, forming them life on life rather than in a classroom alone. So Jesus was in the trenches with them, doing life with them. And he impacted their life. And where they were weak, where they were scared and afraid, intimidated, insecure, whatever the case may be, Jesus blazed the trail. He didn't just say from a classroom, hey, go out and do this. He actually walked with them. He actually went out and did that. He led by example, servant leadership. For you as a leader, you can name your crowd of committed core, the inner few, right? And decide where you will give most of your mentoring time in the next season of your mentoring, in your leadership, in your leading. Find those who are committed, who are hungry, right? And pour into those, because you'll produce leaders in them much quicker because they are hungry. They're desiring to go to the next level. Then how Jesus developed leaders in practice, he modeled the life he wanted them to live. I kind of just said that, but he did that through prayer and compassion and courage and dependence on God. And he let them watch his life closely. A lot of leaders, will rarely let people in their inner circle, their really close space, because oftentimes at one point or another, our flaws will be revealed. Our quirks will be revealed. Hey, at the same time, they allow people to see that we're just an ordinary guy, an ordinary girl, just like they are. And so we can allow them to see us at our weakest, so they can know that they can trust us with their weakness. That's good right there. Yeah. See us at our weakness so they can trust us with their weakness. Well, that's powerful. I need to write that down. But he got to be in the trenches with them. He did ministry with them. He involved them in the miracles, like feeding the multitudes or sending them out in pairs and then debriefing their experiences. Hey, how did it go? What did you experience out there? Well, I got to tell you, this happened and that happened. Okay, great. This is how you do it next time, And Jesus was giving instruction and wisdom in them. And I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to hear even some of the things that went on that are not recorded in Scripture. And what these disciples said to each other about Jesus, or how they picked on each other and things of that nature. I would have loved to hear that. Or how they ragged on one another by how they handled themselves when Jesus sent them out. We know there was a squabble for popularity a little bit. And Jesus, when you enter your kingdom, can you save a place for us up there on the throne? And Jesus is like, nope, it's not mine to give. So sorry, but you got it all wrong. This is about servant leadership. It's about dying to self. It's not about attaining the crown. That is the kingly crown. That is the throne, right? Jesus needs to be on the throne. And yes, we will receive a robe and a crown, as the old song says, when we all get to heaven, as the other song says. But Jesus coached through questions and correction, using their failures. Think about the storm in the boat and all that went on with that. And they were terrified, and Jesus was sleeping in the boat. And they said, Jesus, wake up. Don't you care that we're going to perish? And he comes up, and I'm sure a little sigh. When are you guys going to get it? And he said, peace, be still. And everything calmed down. And he's like, I was with you the whole time. You had nothing to worry about. I was in your boat. But something like that, right? Or Peter's denial. Again, Jesus probably sighed. Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep, right? He used those moments not to criticize, not to cast them down, but to use as teaching moments. And so we need to use a simple pattern. I do, you watch, we do together, you do, and I watch, and you do, and I support. Imagine that. So we're leading by example, and then we're saying, hey, not only watch me do it, but let's do it together. Now, let me watch you do it. and let me support you in doing it. That's pretty deep too, isn't it? A simple pathway you can use, everybody, is you can translate the approach that Jesus did into a reproducible process in your organization, in your business, in your church. Number one is to identify, pray and list about 5 to 10 people who are faithful and available and teachable, even if unpolished, right? Look for those 5 to 10 people, identify them. Next is invite them, personally invite them into a closer journey to come and see, right? And like a discipleship huddle or a leadership cohort, right? You're getting together, getting the pack together and pulling them together and offering them a potential, come and let's make you fishers of men, that kind of situation. Number 3, immerse. Spend consistent time around them with scripture and prayer and real ministry, not just content delivery. Okay? And so even in the workplace, spend time with them, not only around these spiritual attributes, and you can share those, by the way, folks, when you're in a secular industry, you can be very creative on how you share a lot of this information that is biblical. By the way, a lot of John Maxwell, his books are all all attained from scripture. I remember him saying one day, someone came up to him and said, "Hey, where do you get all the ideas for your leadership books?" And he said, "You don't want to know." "No, really. Where do you get it from?" He says, "You don't want to know." "No, really, we want to know." He says, "I get them from the Bible." Ooh. They were like, "Really?" "Yeah." I mean, hey, folks, crack open the book of Proverbs. Read through that. There's so many practical things in there that will help inspire and help us to develop a moral compass about how to live and do life. So there's ways that you can share spiritual things without it necessarily being Matthew 6:33 and the Lord is my shepherd, and laying hands on people, unless you have that avenue to do that. But I love this too. John Maxwell says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's spending time with them, making a difference in their life. Fourthly is involve. Give them real responsibility, leading a task, leading an assignment, leading prayer, leading a group, leading a project, with your presence and feedback. For me, growing up as a leader, I often was a little intimidated when my leader was watching me lead, because you feel challenged. You don't want to blow it. You don't want to make a mistake. I remember years ago, I was working in a tube shop in Rochester, Michigan. Everything was running great with the machine I was operating. And then as soon as the boss came in, my machine started pressing out bad parts. And it made it look like I wasn't doing a good job. And I was so embarrassed. But hey, stuff happens, right? So, hey, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. That's a good one. Number 5 is invest long-term. Walk with your potential leaders through the successes and the failures and adjusting the level of challenge as they grow. Maybe you as a leader gave them too much to swallow or too much to handle at one time. Dial it down a little bit and make the step a little less high for them to step up on so that they can gain their footing, right? Adjusting the level of challenges as they grow, just as Jesus did across the 3 years with the 12 disciples. This is all some practical tips for us. Follow me and watch me do the work, and then I'll watch you do the work and see others following you, right? Very, very good, important things for us to learn today. So that's it in a nutshell, the art of empowering others, how to develop leaders like Jesus did. I hope you find this as a resource for you. So go out and teach, be a leader by example, and show the way. Don't just go the way, show the way. All right? All right, thanks for tuning in today. God bless you.